Come on. Bye, shalom.
Shalom.
We're going to start off with a prayer. Father, y'all, we thank right now for the word that's going to come forth today. Father, y'all, we thank right now for being with us also, Father, y'all, throughout this day. Father, y'all, we magnify your name right now. We just thank you right now for just giving us another chance, Father, y'all, to get it right, Father, y'all, to seek your face, Father, y'all. We thank you right now for keeping us covered, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, we repent and ask forgiveness of all sins that we know of and that we know not of, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, we magnify your name right now because you're worthy, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, just take the time out right now to let you know that you're marvelous, Father, y'all. To let you know that you're wonderful, Father, y'all, because your word says, Father, that you inhabit the praises of your people, Father, y'all. We magnify your name right now. I personally magnify your name. I personally lift up the name of Yahuwah. I personally lift up the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. I thank you right now for just being with us. I thank you right now for keeping us covered right now. I thank you for your grace. I thank you for your mercy. I thank you for your loving kindness. I thank you for everything that you've done. In spite of how we were, you were still there. I just thank you right now for coming for us. I thank you right now for just allowing us to just have the gift of discernment, to be able to know when to do things and when not to do things, to be able to know when to move and when not to move. Father, y'all, magnify your name right now because you're worthy. I thank you right now, Father, y'all, for just being with me as a whole. I thank right now for mere life, Father, y'all. I thank right now for the breath that's in my body, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, magnify your name right now because I know a lot of people didn't make it this morning, Father. Y'all don't take it for granted, Father, y'all, that I woke up this morning, Father. Y'all just thank you right now, Father. Y'all don't think that I just got to wake up, Father, y'all. I know it's by your grace and mercy that I'm here another day, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, we come against everything that's not like you, Father, y'all. We come against the realm of darkness, Father, y'all. We come against all forms of sorcery, Father, y'all. We come against all forms of evil, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, we come against everything of the dark art, Father, y'all, everything in the dark world. We come against manipulation, Father, y'all. Come against anyone trying to manipulate me, my family, anyone trying to manipulate us as a whole, Father, anyone trying to manipulate anyone, Father, y'all, that's connected to us, Father, y'all. We come against it right now. We come against the spirit of witchcraft right now, Father, y'all. We come against all forms of sorcery, Father, y'all, connected with it, Father, y'all, that controlling spirit, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, we cast it out, Father, y'all. We cast it, Father, y'all, from out our lives as a whole, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, thank you right now, Father, y'all, because it's not your desire that we control others, Father, y'all. It's not your desire that we manipulate others, Father, y'all. It's not your desire that we get manipulated by others either, Father, y'all. So we magnify your name, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, just thank you right now as I touch on these things. I know the power of the darkness don't want this to be said, but Father, y'all, I say it right now with the fruit of my lip, Father, y'all, knowing, Father, y'all, it's through you that I live and that I move and that I have my being, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, magnify your name because you're worthy once again, Father, y'all. Father, y'all, just taking the time out just to lift up the name of you, Father, y'all. Something we don't do often, Father, y'all, but it's very important, Father, y'all, because in the time of need, Father, y'all, we'll be able to look back on the time that we magnified your name, Father, y'all. Just the mere fact that we magnified your name may allow you to wink at some time when we make mistakes, Father, y'all. May allow you to wink at certain situations, Father, y'all, that we're trying to get out of, Father, y'all. Begin to reach out your hand and help us, Father, y'all, because we took the time out, Father, y'all, of our busy day just to let you know that we appreciate you, Father, y'all. Just to say total y'all unto you, Father, y'all, because you're marvelous, Father, y'all. Just to say total y'all unto you, Father, y'all, because you're wonderful, Father, y'all. Thank you right now, Father, y'all. In the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray. So be it.
So be it.
Shabbat shalom again, everybody.
Shalom.
We'll be talking about abusing the grace of Yah, the grace of Yah in general. Some people try to use the grace of Yah as an excuse to do whatever they want to do or to keep continuing in sin, I would say. But when you really look at John 3:16, it talks about Yah so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but shall have everlasting life. But he sent him not to condemn us, but that through him that we might be saved. And that's verse 17 of John 3:16 said might be saved. So might it means that you might not. So, it leaves room for, you for not to be saved. A lot of people think that just because, who we call the Mashiach came, since he came, that everything is going to be fine. It's like, they don't realize that, when we get into certain scripture, they'll explain that when he died for past sin. Don't get me wrong, the grace will cover sin, but you don't have an excuse just to do what you want to do because grace is here. And it's just, just to give you an example, someone goes to jail for, I would say, just to use something that's common for murder, or for rape or something of that nature, and then they get pardoned by the justice system. Doesn't mean that now that they've been pardoned by the justice system, they get out of jail and go back and continue murdering and raping people. So that's the equivalent to thinking that just because grace is here, you can just keep doing whatever you want to do. And that's not how it works. I mean, you have to realize that when he came for us to actually become one with him through the baptism, through immersion, so we can become one and that the old man will be gone. But how can you say that, that grace is for you continually if you're going to continue to walk in the flesh and live in the old man? If you can't just continue to do the deeds of the old man and think that grace would just keep excusing it without no type of punishment. It's not saying that you can't be forgiven for sins. It's saying that now that you know better, it begins to get to a point where your grace and mercy may run out. May get to a point where it's like now, when you saw things happening and nothing wasn't happening to you right away, but things may happen right away, meaning that you may go to jail for what you've done wrong, even though you believe in the Mashiach. And the grace and mercy is that you'll get out at some point. You may get out earlier than what you were supposed to get out, but you still went to jail for the sin or for whatever it is that you've done wrong, for the bad deeds. So it's like we can't, and a lot of this stuff has been walked through, certain religions, Christianity and stuff has warped a lot of people's mind, thinking that, okay, don't worry about it. They'll say JC will take care of it. Just you can't just plead the blood over sin and continue to go and sin. Like the Most High already knows your thought process and your mind. We keep forgetting that the Most High, he's omnipresent. Like he knows the future. He already knows that you're not going to do right. So it's like you can't, even though he gives us the chance, we have to remember we're not dealing with man. So when you're going to do something contrary to the will of Yah and the laws of Yah, you have to think about it. He's already aware that you're not going to do right. So therefore, the grace is not extended. After so long, you have to just deal with the consequences of what you've done wrong. Like, understand that, that's why the word begins to say we sin willingly. So we can't just keep sinning willingly and then think that, okay, the Most High is going to take care of me. And grace is not excuse to disobey the laws of Yah. It doesn't replace the law. It doesn't replace the law. Grace just helps you in the area that you were not able to be helped in prior to the Mashiach coming. It's like you didn't have a way out. So when he came, he offered you a way out, but it wasn't free. I mean, you had to actually become a slave unto him. It's like in order to be, to say that this grace covers you, you have to realize that you have to become one with him. Like whatever you yield your members to, that's your master, whoever you yield your members to. So if you yield your members to righteousness, then you're a slave unto righteousness. That means you have to bow unto the statutes of being righteous. You have to actually conform to being righteous. You can't just say that, okay, now that I'm, that I believe, in the word and that I've got saved. Like you can't quote this prayer and go up to the line and they say, will there be one? And say, okay, look, now I'm okay. And then now just go back out and continue how you want to live, how you've been living. It doesn't work like that. It's like it's not a sin to go to the club and go to certain places where people hang out at. But what a sin comes in at is where the evil communication corrupt your good manners, and you begin to start doing some of the things that they're doing. It's like if you can't draw them in, they're going to draw you in. So if you go out and hang out with people that are not of pressure like fake, what do you think going to happen? Eventually they're going to reel you in, because what are you doing while you're there? You're observing them. You're not trying to get them to observe you. You came there to be entertained. So the entertainment is going to reel you in. So now you begin to go out and then you begin to operate as the old man again, because you begin to get around those that were not oppressed like faith. Iron wasn't sharper iron. You begin to take on the deeds of those that are hanging out with no type of purpose concerning the Most High. And so you start making excuses and say, okay, look, it's okay if we go out tonight to wherever you're going and do this one sin, then it'll be okay. He'll forgive me. But it doesn't work that way. Like something may happen that may cause you to realize that this has happened because of what you've done wrong. Like things happen, there are punishments for sin. Like the punishment doesn't leave just because the Mashiach came. Like we have to deal with what it is that, we make these choices, the consequences has to come. The Most High may make it lighter because of the fact that you may turn your face back to him and then try to, get the grace and mercy of him to shine upon you based on your idea of saying, look, I apologize, I'm sorry, I repent. But it's not going to erase it all most of the time. And that depends on the level of grace that's already been given unto you already as a whole. It depends on where you're at as a born again believer, whether or not the Most High will extend his hand of grace, or it depends on what's the matter of your heart at that time. Are you doing this just not to be punished, or are you really sincerely sorrowful for what you've done wrong and you want to get it right? All this matters. It's like you can't just say, okay, he'll forgive me, and then premeditate sin and go out knowing that you're not going to do the right thing. It doesn't work that way. So, and a lot of people have twisted the word, like what we have religion, it have added a lot of things in. That's why I gave you the example about going out and hanging out. Like we can use club or wherever you want to be at, where people out there are sinning. They've made these things to a point where it's like they've added it to the word without giving you a right to choose what you need to be doing in the process. Like there may be times you may have to go somewhere and the Most High may be using you, but when you're doing that, you're laser focused. You know what the target is. You're aware of what you're supposed to be doing. You're not trying to entertain what they're entertaining. You're not trying to be entertained by them. So your goal is to go get somebody out of there or try to convert somebody there if the Most High sent you there. But if the Most High didn't send you there and you're just doing everything they're doing and you're hanging out, then what's the point? Like, I mean, what your behavior is everything. Like people want to they want to skew the fact of having bad behavior. Like you can't have bad behavior. And I say bad behavior, that you can't carry yourself unseemly and carry yourself as in a manner in which sinners are carrying themselves, and there's no difference between you and them. It has to be a separation. It has to be, you have to be set apart to a degree where someone can know that you're not the same as them. I don't know if you remember back in the days when you first got saved, when you would go to a job or go somewhere and people would always know that there was something about you. They knew that you were different from them, almost to the offense with some of them. And to some of them, it was like, they would like look at you as if, hey, look, you know, here come the preacher man, here come this or that, whatever they want to call you, you know what I'm saying, some type of slogan of being saved or whatever like that. You know, most of the time it was something that they were aware of. They marked you. Like if you're not marked by people, then it's got to be some issue going on. Like they have to know that you're not the same. It's like we're not supposed to be trying to fit in and make them feel like, okay, it's no different between me and you. There's a big difference between me and you if you're not serving the Most High. And it needs to be known. This is the way we separate ourselves from those that are not of the fold, in a sense where we're not trying to say we're better in the flesh, but we are better concerning being sons and daughters of the Most High. And that's the thing. So, and it's not a wrong thing to for them to be convicted. They're supposed to be convicted. Like our goal is not to make them feel comfortable. Our goal is not to make them feel uncomfortable. Our goal is to be who we are. And through being who we are, they'll be uncomfortable and be convicted. Like our goal is to draw them in. Our goal is to get them converted as a whole. And I switched that to say, it's like you can't abuse grace and then still be a light for the Mashiach, because those that are watching you, you're already marked most of the time, whether you know it or not. It's something about you when the Most High has chosen you that you can't get away from. It's like it's something about you that you can't shake. It's always going to be, you're always going to feel out of place. I don't care how much you backslide, how much you go backwards and start trying to hang back out. It's going to always be something to reel you back in. Life will reel you back in. Things will start happening with your children. You'll realize, okay, what am I doing in my own strength to help this situation? Just because I'm having a good time, I'm partying, as some say, I'm kicking it or whatever, that doesn't bring you any help. And so it's going to get to a point where you're going to realize, okay, look, I got to get back right with the Most High so that I can actually call on him without a guilty conscience. And that's what we have to look at. So when you abuse grace, it's like those that abuse grace are pretty much making their own laws and standards. They're trying to, most of the time, operate being self-righteous most of the time, most of these individuals. So you can't abuse grace, and you can't replace the law with grace, and you can't replace the law of Yah with good deeds and things that you're saying. You can't be good and try to use grace being good and ignore the law of Yah. It won't work. And so we're going to look at Jude chapter 3. As we say, certain ones came in twisting the word. Well, Jude verse 3 through 7.
Jude verse 3. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the coming salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the belief which was once delivered into the set apart ones.
Okay, so when we say contend for the belief, this is what I'm saying, which was once delivered to the set apart one, mean you have to fight for it. Mean you have to actually, contend for it, stand for the belief, no matter what's going on, deal with the opposition that's coming towards the belief no matter what. You have to deal with it, with whether it feels good or whether it feels bad. Stand for the belief. You know what I'm saying? You have to make a stand no matter how it feels. And this belief that you have to make a stand for is the truth. It's not what they're trying to insert in the place of the truth. Like you have people that's trying to put what they want to be as what they, as you would call the belief. Like you can't make up your own belief. You can't make up the word and try to say, okay, look, now this is part of the word. You can't create other books of the gospel, other books of the belief. You can't add anything to it or take anything away. And the reason you have to contend, because it's like certain ones are saying this doesn't matter. Like back then, they were saying the resurrection didn't happen. All kind of stuff they were saying. It's like they were saying, look, don't worry about that because the Mashiach never came. And it was also saying stuff like, look, you need to do this, and do that. Like back then, they were adding a lot of rituals and stuff, and they were trying to keep certain rituals that you didn't have to keep anymore. Like certain things you had to do, you didn't no longer have to do. You no longer had to offer the offering of to Moses. Like when the Mashiach said offer the gift to Moses, he was still living in the flesh. But when he actually died to the flesh, that was over. Like he was not yet our high priest when he was walking in the flesh. Like I say, when he was walking in the flesh, he was not the high priest yet at that time. But when he actually left here, when he said, look, it is finished, he said, all power has been given over unto me, over heaven and earth. And at that point, that's when he became our high priest and the shepherd and bishop of our soul. And at that point, we did not have to no longer offer any type of gift unto Moses, anything like that, to a priest, anything, because he became our priest. So when he became our priest, at that point, we realized that as we accept him as a whole, not partially. So when you accept him partially, what you're saying is, look, even though he died, you know, I'm still going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to let the baptism make me be merged as one with him. I'm going to just do what I want to do. And then when it comes time for me to get in trouble, I'll go back and say, look, now I need to find this grace. Grace is not to be found. It was already given. Like grace was given way back then. Grace came when he died. When he actually sent the comforter at that point, you know, this is when we begin to be able to operate in this grace to say that we have a helper. So when you become to be one with him, and the Ruach HaKodesh begin to come upon you, there's a conscience that you have that's supernatural that lets you know that you're wrong when you do something, because conviction comes. You know when you make the wrong choice, and after you made that wrong choice and you were aware of it, you begin to be grieved and begin to be very guilty. And this goes on for so long until the Most High begin to give you over into a reprobated mind that you keep going back and forth with sin. Like this is the process of this. Like you keep going back and forth, then eventually it turns you over into a reprobated mind to make you think that what you're doing is right. And that's when you begin to operate now at a point of self-righteousness. Like you don't want to get to that point. This is what happens when you keep on abusing grace. It gets to a point where you begin to be numb unto, you know, sins. Like it begins to get to a point where your conscience begin to be seared to the point where you don't even have a conscience towards sin. You begin to do things that you know is not right. Like how can somebody, you know, cut their wife up and put in a freezer? I mean, we just repeating stuff that we saw in the news. The prophet did this. I'm just saying, how do you do this and say you're a prophet of Yah? How do you go out and you know, molest children and say that you're a prophet of Yah and that you have Yah? How do you do these things? What makes you do this? You have to be, your conscience has to be gone. Most of the time, these people, we can't say everybody started off wrong. I won't sit there and say that everybody did not start off wrong. Some people went down the wrong path and it got to a point where they began to allow sin to take over them. And they begin to be made captive by sin. Sin captivated them. They begin to be a prisoner unto sin. That's why I say, whoever you yield your members unto, that's your master. So it begins to hold you captive. And like it begins to take over you. It gets to a point where you can't shake the drug habit. Because like you kept dipping and you kept tipping, and then it got to a point where now you need it. You started off as you was doing it for comfort or doing it for a crutch or something of that nature. Now it gets to a point where you start stealing. You start doing things. Now you got to have the drug. It's like, and so you begin to be one with this drug to the point where if you ever looked at certain addicts and stuff, how you can identify a certain spirit on them based on that drug, you can tell that they're bound. Like it's certain ones you can see, it's like they smell like the drug. It's like they look like the drug. It's like they actually seem like this name that you would call them of this type of drug. You know, we say like a weed head, crackhead, whatever we want to call them. I say head because it's like when it gets to a point where you're doing something to the point where you can't stop, it's like you begin to be one with this thing. Like it begins to take over you. You keep going.
But there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. Wicked men turned the grace of our Yah into lasciviousness, and denying the only Adonai Yahuwah and our Adonai Yahusha HaMashiach.
Okay, so it said wicked men. And so we start dealing with lasciviousness. I looked that up and it talked about offensive sexual desire. And so like, you can't actually operate this way and then say that, look, that the grace of Yah is gonna cover anything. Like that's what we just covered. You can't function in that manner and then try to say, okay, look, now I'm gonna actually, just do what I want to do no matter what, and then grace is gonna be there. It doesn't work that way.
6. Oh, 5.
Yeah, look now.
I would therefore put you in remembrance through you once knew this, how the Yahuwah, having saved the people out of the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believe not. And the angels which did not guard their first estate, but left their own habitation, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
Okay, and so we deal with all this. We have to look at now. We had angels that knew Yah, that was there in the presence of Yah, that was there with them, and they had they were created for a purpose, but they have a free will, like they left. This happened on more than one occasion. When we had the situation with around the time with Noah, when they left their estate, we know we had the situation that it's like a lot of things kept going on with these angels. You look at, the weirdness of them and how they would operate. It's like you wonder, how can you be in the presence of Yah and then how you would just leave? But this shows the grace of Yah, because it means that they have a free will. He didn't force them to serve him, and they were right there with him. So it just showed that you have a choice. Like that's why I say, choose you this day who you will serve. And if you know that you have a choice, then it shows that the Most High is not trying to twist anybody's hand. Of course, he can do things, and allow things to happen, or don't stop things from happening to draw you in. But you ultimately have to make the choice that you want to be, walking with him, and that you want to live right. You can go to, we'll go to Titus chapter 1, starting out at the 10th verse.
All right. Titus 1, verse 10. But there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake. Of one of themselves, even a prophet of their own, said, the Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, slow bellies. This witness is true. Wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the belief, not giving heed to Yehudic fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. Until the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. They profess that they know Yahuwah, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and into every good work reprobate.
So saying they're reprobate. So anybody that's trying to twist the word, anybody that's trying to be self-righteous, like that's why I say, especially those of the circumcision, those that were circumcised according to the flesh, I would say tooted their nose up or whatever like that, or thought they were better than those that were not yet circumcised according to the flesh. Now realize that even though you were circumcised according to the flesh, there had to be a circumcision according to the heart. And they had the circumcision according to the flesh, but not according to the heart. And it's equivalent to those that are walking in the flesh, that are the people of Yah, who we would say, Yehudim, we would say that. And it's like, but yet they don't have the relationship with Yah, and they don't have a heart toward Yah. They just have the flesh, and that's it. Like it has to be more than just the flesh. But we understand that if you operate in the flesh, then you will die according to the flesh. So you have to operate in the Ruach HaKodesh to live according to the spirit. And so this is why those that were of circumcision were trying to create all this stuff. They kept trying to boast and do things, talking about how they wash their hands. There's a lot of stuff that they done, the rituals that they had to keep And all this stuff here doesn't save you. It's like they were trying to put heavy burdens upon people to be self-righteous. That's what it was. I mean, because you're saying circumcision, it lines up with everything else that's on details, them being self-righteous and everything that says that, okay, I know I'm okay because I do this and I do that. Like the guy said, he fast twice a week, and pay his tithes, all this kind of stuff here. He was telling them shit like that. And the other guy that had held his head down, he never beat his chest or nothing. He said, have mercy upon me, a sinner. And that guy had more respect for the Mashiach than the one that said he fast twice a week and paid his tithe during the time of Mashiach standing. The law was still in existence. So that guy was right by what he was doing, but he was boasting into the manner in which he done. He thought that that was going to save him. Like that doesn't save you. Like it doesn't matter if you go to church and that you do everything that's supposed to be done, all the duties that you're supposed to do, or whatever, whether you're a deacon or whatever you may be in the praise team singing, whatever you may be, and you're doing everything you're supposed to do that's right, everything they ask you to do according to the function of the building, according to what you say that you need to do, that you see in the word, but yet your heart is wrong. Yet you don't have a heart toward the Most High, yet you're evil. And even though you're doing these deeds, you're evil. That's why I say that, there's only one that's good. That's the Most High. It's like you can't operate in a manner in which thinking that because this thing is bad. Self-righteousness, this spirit is a bad spirit. People operate in that get into the word. It's like people that operate in this spirit always have this one-up type mentality. If you ever notice, they always feel like, and even when they ask you a question, they really don't ask you the question just to find out what they need to know. They ask these questions so they can try to trap you. Like these questions, these same trap questions that were asked back then when the Messiah was walking around, it's the same spirit in which these people operate that really are self-righteous. Like even though they may not be living right at the time, the self-righteous heart, the way people operate, it's a manner in which they operate that shows that they are self-righteous in the way in which they go about, because what they try to do is cut others down so they can feel better. Like when you're operating in a self-righteous spirit, your whole goal is to make yourself look better than somebody else or to appear better than them. It's like you're saying, okay, look, you done this, I used to do that, but now I'm doing this and everything is lined up. You shouldn't do that. It's like they're trying to figure out ways to shoot you down rather than to help you get on the level that you should be on. It's like they're not really trying to find out whether or not you can help them. They're trying to ask a question so they can say what was wrong with the answer that you gave them. And that's what's going on. These self-righteous spirits, the Most High is not going to deal with them. It's like no matter what they did right, they can give all they want to give. They can give everything. Like the word say in Corinthians, it said you can give your whole body to be burned. If you don't have love, then they don't amount to nothing. So what makes you better being self-righteous? Like we have to get out of that spirit. Self-righteous people don't want to hear any more information, especially if it's something that already been said before. Self-righteous people don't like repeated information. It's like repeated information is not just for you only. Sometimes it's for other people that, that may need to hear the information. It's not all about you. And when you're self-righteous, sometimes you don't know it, but that self-righteous spirit sometimes works hand in hand with the spirit of witchcraft, the spirit of control, because you're trying to control the scenario and the situation in which you're standing with the individual, with the information they're giving. You're trying to appear to be one way, and you're not. No matter what it seems, at any cost, you're trying to cut them down so you can look better in front of them only or in front of the crowd. We finished that one, so we're gonna go to Matthew chapter 7. We're gonna go to Matthew 7. Before we go there, just want to mention it's like just calling on the Most High is not enough. Like you can't like a lot of people got to get their priorities straight just because you say I know in translation it say Lord, Lord, or just you saying you call him Yahuwah, whatever you're saying to translate that. Just because you called on him doesn't make you right. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're right because you calling upon him. It's like you have to realize that to call upon him is one thing, but he's looking at, now that you're calling upon me, now what? Like, are you calling upon me because you need something? Or are you calling upon me because you want to allow me to operate in you and through you? What is your reason for calling me? Like, you can't just call me and there's no purpose behind it. Like, when you call me, you have to take on the will that I have, for you. Like, you have to do my will. Like, you can't just call me. Like, you can't say you love me and don't keep my commandments. It's like a lot of people are saying that they love, the Most High. They're not keeping this commandment. They're just wanting to say it just because it sounds good or because they think they're supposed to say it or whatever the reason may be. There has to be a call to action when you call the Most High. Like, what are you calling them for? Now that you got his attention, now what? It's like the Most High probably come to your call, but then what? What happens after he comes? When you call him, you calling him for what? This is what he wants to know. Like, now if you call me, you can't call me and go all the way to Z. You got to call me and go back to A because you skipped everything. Like, you got to go right back to the beginning of what I told you to do when you're calling me. Like, you're calling me in the midst of trouble. And the only reason you call me because you're in a bind or you're in a fix. Like when the Mashiach said, look, y'all follow me. When it was 70-something disciples, when they was all following him, remember it all boiled down to 12. He said, look, all y'all are following me. Y'all not following me because y'all want to be with me. Y'all follow me because y'all seeking me because y'all ate the loaves and the bread and because y'all got full. It's not that. You're seeking, the meat. I mean, you're seeking things that, that are tangible. Like you can't call the Most High for just tangible things only. Like the Most High wants you to call him for things that are not tangible, for shalom. He wants you to call him for, just having, not being stressed out as a whole. Just he wants you to call him to have the ability to do what he needs you to do. Like he'll equip you, but you're calling for something different. So when he allows something different to happen, you still don't have the shalom. You still don't have your mind right to serve him. So at that point, the thing that you asked for has allowed you to get in trouble, allowed you to go further and further away from the Most High. It's like most of the time you say, okay, look, the Most High gave me this. Like some of this stuff, the Most High is not giving us things that cause a burden in our life. Like he's not giving you some type of a note on something that you can't, afford to pay. Like, people give you these prophecies and stuff, those that are still bound by some of these institutions that are prophesying materialistic things. It's like he's saying, look, I'm gonna bless you with a car. The Most High gonna bless you with this. And you go out there and you force your way into some super expensive car note. You're paying $1,200, $1,300 a month, and your income ain't even nowhere close to that. And they knew that when they were there, but they fixed the numbers, and now you're bound and you can't even afford to buy food because you're paying this car note to make this prophecy come to pass that got prophesied to you. That's not the Most High. His will is not that you be bound and be in bondage. It's okay if you feel like you got to have a car note, but it needs to be reasonable. It doesn't need to be something that you can't afford just so that you can either look good to keep up with the Jones or just so you can say, look, this thing got to come to pass. The Most High said, I'm going to have a car. Somebody might want to give you a car sometime. You never know, but you're trying to force it. And now you're in position to, now you're really not in position, but you put yourself in position to pay for something that's got you in bondage. And now you can't even breathe. It's like it brought stress, it brought anxiety, it brought headaches. And now you can't even rest at night. You're trying to figure out, how am I going to survive after I pay this payment? Now the people are looking for you. You're trying to hide the car and they're trying to find you. They're knocking on doors, calling people, trying to figure out where you hid the car because you couldn't afford to pay the car note. Yet the prophet told you that you was gonna get a new car and you forced it to come into fruition or whatever you want to say. So, but let's look at Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23.
Matthew 7:21. Not everyone that says unto me, Adonai, Adonai, shall enter into the kingdom of Yahuwah, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Adonai, Adonai, have we not prophesied in your name? And in your name have we cast out devils? And in your name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye transgressors of the law.
It said, ye transgressors of the law. It never said they didn't do the works. It never said they didn't prophesy in his name. It said, depart from me, ye transgressors of the law. And that's the thing. So we have to look at, it has to be to a point where you have to do what's supposed to be done in the right order. It's like you can't just do things, and say just because this was performed, like I can go out there and the Most High can give me the gift of healing. I can be healing people and everything going on, yet I'll go to hell. Me, the gift and everything is over because he's not going to stop the people from being helped, and I have this gift. He's going to let me use this gift. I'm going to be healing people. Everything's going to be fine. They're not going to know no different. I'm going to have a whole separate self-righteous lifestyle going on and everything and thinking I'm perfect and right. And all of a sudden now the people will make it in, but I didn't make it in because I was wrong. Yet I had the gift. Like the gift doesn't excuse you from being righteous. That's the thing. And people don't realize we don't put people on pedestals that say they got a gift. Like just because you're saying something that's the Most High is giving you something, if you can prophesy, you can heal or work miracles, or you have the power to believe by faith and things just come to pass, doesn't excuse you from being right in the eyes of the Most High. If he told you to do something else, that doesn't mean that you won't be punished because you skipped that thing and you just went on to keep going to operate that gift and you got caught up into helping people. Helping people doesn't mean you don't go to hell. That's the twist. That's the tricky part about it. When people get it twisted, they're thinking that, okay, I've done all this and I've done all that, so I should make it in. The Most High doesn't operate like that. He doesn't operate like politicians. When they're saying rubbing each other's shoulder, whatever you call, you do this for me and I'll do this for you. That's not how the Most High operates. He don't have to make deals with you. Deals are not made. That's not how it works. Like the Most High, he operates in righteousness. Like if you're doing something wrong, he's not going to excuse the wrongdoing for a good deed that you do. You have to get the wrongdoing right. Like if someone offended you, or you were offended by someone, or you have something against a culture or something like that, you have to go to them and get it right. Like the words say, you have to go make sure of your friend. Like you can't just skip over what's wrong and say, oh, look, I'm just going to skip that and go do a whole bunch of other deeds to cancel out this bad deed. That's not how the Most High operate. You're held accountable for the bad deed. Like just because you can't go kill 2 people and save 1,000 lives and then not be responsible for the 2 people that you killed. That's equivalent to that. So you can't just call on the Most High and then function how you want to function just because you're calling him. It doesn't matter if you're in communication. None of this stuff matters. If you're not right, then it's not going to amount to anything. You have to be right in the manner in which you're doing things. So where we at here? We go to Romans. So we're going to go to Romans 6. So once again, we're dealing with abusing grace. Romans chapter 6, starting off at the first verse.
Romans chapter 6, verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Never. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Know ye not that so many of us as were immersed into Yahushua HaMashiach were immersed into his death?
That means when you got baptized, you died to sin. Like you just can't keep sinning so that grace may help you. That's not how this works.
Therefore, we are buried with him by immersion until death, that like as Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in the newness of life. For we had been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also in the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. For he that is dead is freed from sin.
Okay, so stopping now before we go to verse 15. You have to look at this and say, okay, look, if I'm operating in the flesh and I'm not going to let the old man die, you know that the old man gets punished. You know the flesh gets punished. If it says, now it tells you this now, when you look at everything, put erasing the fact that there's no heaven or hell, those that have done that in their mind that may watch this video, realize that there is a Shamayim, which we call heaven, and there's hell. Okay, there's a lake of fire and brimstone. These punishments exist. So if you're operating in the flesh, it's the flesh that must be punished. That's why you die to the flesh. When you die to the flesh and you put on Mashiach, you die to the flesh. So if you're dead to something, it's already dead. So how can you be punished for something you don't have? Like if you don't have the flesh, then you can't be punished with the flesh. It's the flesh that's going to get punished. This is why there are emotions and there are feelings and everything. When they say it will be the weeping and the gnashing of the teeth. How are you going to have weeping and gnashing of teeth with no feelings? Like how is there punishment with no feeling? When you pop your child, or when they touch something like the stove, you'll say, that's hot. And they'll know it's hot by touching, but when you say, don't do that, you pop them. This is what it comes in at. It teaches them not to do that thing anymore. That's why it talks about sparing the rod, spoiling the child. And so when you do this, you whoop, you say, look, no, don't do this no more. And they begin to walk upright. And when they're not doing that, you're not whooping them. They don't feel that. It's the same thing. So when you die to the flesh, you're not operating in the flesh anymore. Like you're not doing the deeds of the flesh anymore. Like that's why you have to mortify the deeds of the flesh. You have to get the flesh has to be put under subjection. Like you can't let it do what it want to do. When you allow the flesh to do what it want to do, the flesh takes you, as you fast forward, to hell. That's what happened. It began to take you there for eternal punishment, eternal damnation, because you allowed the flesh to lead you there. The flesh is headed one way, destruction. It's headed to death. We're not talking about death as in just dying. It said death will be cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. All this stuff here that you have going on, you have to realize, okay, it doesn't just end when you're here. Like we're thinking that, this dimension that we're in ends everything. This is a dimension here in this realm that we're in. This realm is temporary. When this realm is over, there's another realm that must continue. It's a lot of information, but I will say that, if you allow the flesh to trick you, the flesh will allow you to be wound up into eternal damnation, eternal punishment. You won't be able to escape that type of punishment because the flesh will be to trick you to just keep pacifying it and keep giving it everything you want to have and keep letting it do everything you want to do to the point where it's overtaking you. And now you totally operate in the flesh, so you have to totally be punished. That's why I said that if your right eye offend you, pluck it out. If anything, your hand offend you, it's better that you enter into the kingdom with one hand and one eye than to be punished forever. I'd rather that hand and that eye go into eternal damnation than my whole body. And so we have to look at it in that sense that, we're trying to be, we're trying to escape eternal damnation by putting that flesh under subjection, because the flesh will take you into eternal damnation. This is why everybody doesn't start off the wrong way. They start off doing the right thing. That's why I say you ran well, but who did hinder you, or what hindered you that you should not obey the truth? Like a lot of people started on the right path, but pride lifted up a lot of pastors, it lifted up a lot of bishops and leaders and apostles and all these ones with these big titles. It lifted them up, and they allowed people to put them on a pedestal to the point where now they've been praised so much that they can't even step down from sin. It's like they can't get it right. Like a lot of them need to step down, but they can't step down because they don't want to look a certain way in front of the people. They don't want to look like they've done something wrong. And so pride kicks in, and pride will allow you also to go into the lake of fire and brimstone, because pride will make you be self-righteous. It will force you to actually appear one way, but yet you're suffering on the inside. Yeah.
6:15. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the Torah, but under grace? Never. Know ye not that whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his service you are to him to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness.
Okay, and that's what we talked about earlier. I mean, so if you're whoever you yield your members to, that's what you're serving. Like, so if you yield your members to anything, you yield your members to any form of drug, anything that's going on that you know that you shouldn't be operating. We're not talking about, and you have to be cautious also with the things that they're being prescribed to you by these here in the white coat. So you have to be cautious of these things, because you can get hooked on this. A lot of people get hooked on these prescription medication and they can't shake them. It's like, and it gets to a point where now that you don't even need it, you can't stop taking the pill, because it's like you can begin to be a slave to it now. So you need it. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you're using wisdom, in every area of your life. Make sure that you're using wisdom, even in those areas, and when you're actually doing something. That's why when I don't need it, I don't do it unless I absolutely have to. In certain cases, I try to stay away from most of it. But if I have to, then I do it. But you have to be careful, because you will become bound by certain drugs, whether it be street drugs or drugs that are recognized by the system. Let's go to Proverbs 28 and 13.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 28:13 says, he that covers his sin shall not prosper, but whoso confesses and forsakes them shall have mercy.
So you can't hide sin. That's the thing. That's why I say he that covers sin should not prosper. That's once again what I'm saying. People are covering stuff up. Like when you do something wrong, you know what I'm saying, you can't cover it. Like you have to actually, you have to repent of this thing. Some things you have to get right. Certain things you've done, some things have to be confessed. Like there's a situation where people let people down, and you may have destroyed certain congregation or whatever it may be because of sin that you were involved in, and the Most High just allowed everything to come crumbling down because you were the one that's over here. You got to go make that right. You got to say, look, this is what went wrong, and if you're right in the eyes of the Most High, you'll know what went wrong. He'll show you what went wrong. Look, I'm the reason why this all fell apart, because I got caught up into this other lifestyle. You have to go confess this thing and let them know, hey, look, now because I got caught up into this lifestyle, our system crumbled. Whatever you have, a congregation, it went down. I allowed everything to go down. I saw things going wrong. I was taking bribes, all this stuff was going on. So we went into bankruptcy. This is how we went down. I just want to confess before the congregation. And this is just saying from a standpoint of leaders that need to come forth and say, look, I was wrong. You can't hide it. You can't just brush it on the rug and everything is like just an afterthought, like people, well, you know, it just didn't work out, things got rough. That's not always the case, because there are people that's involved. There were people that looked up to you that was counting upon this actually system to work right, you know, and whatever religious system it was, people depend on this stuff. This is therapy for certain people. Like, people need this stuff. Everybody's not on the same level. Like, this is where the self-righteous person comes in, that just because they have a sense of consciousness and that their thought process is up to par, doesn't mean everybody else's is. So this is where the repeated information comes in that you shun. This is where the stuff comes in that you don't like because you have it all together. But you have to realize ministry is not about you. Like, you can know everything under the sun. How do we translate this information to the people that don't know? What about the people that wasn't there at the time you heard it or whatever was going on? So we can't put our foot on people's throat just because we already at a certain mental capacity. We can't do that. We have to realize that there are people that are slow. There are people that, you know, that are challenged mentally. There are people that are challenged spiritually, and they just don't get it sometimes. And sometimes the Ruach may lead you to do things repetitive. So it's like, you know, this is why I have to boil down to people that are like that. It's hard for them to help individuals because their patience will be short. Like, you have to have patience. You know, long suffering is is the fruit of the spirit. Like, if you're not long suffering, then you're not going to be able to operate. Like, these things are there for a reason. When it talks about, you know, in Galatians, the fruit of the spirit. And so when you talk about these things, if you don't have this, you can't be a minister unto the people of the Most High if you don't have this, because people will get on your nerves. Like, people will begin to show you that they're just not getting it. You know, sheep equals children. That's what they are. Like, they don't understand sometimes. It's like sometimes you have to kind of like almost feel like you're beating it inside their head so they can get it. This is what a shepherd does. Like, a shepherd doesn't just begin to get to a point where he just throws the people away into the woods, because that's where they go, to the woods. Like, if you're not feeding them, somebody's going to feed them, and it's going to be the wrong food. It's like you have to realize that there's a diet that the Most High gives sheep. Like, sheep are drinking milk, they're not eating meat. And when people are drinking milk, they just don't understand. It's just like a baby. Like, babies, they learn things, but it's like they still babies in mentality. They can't get on certain levels. When we talking about real babies, not ones that are toddlers, I'm talking about babies. Babies that, you know, like, you can teach them things like when they first start to walk, it's like certain things they'll give. They're not going to be able to you know, to have an intelligent conversation with you about things, you know, of the past, because they have no past. It's like you have to teach them things as they grow and as they go along so that they can grasp them as they go and hope that they grasp them. And some of them don't grasp them right away. Some people learn quicker than others. This is being said because it's like, you know, most of the time we have to realize that the Most High, you know, he harps real heavy on long suffering. You know, like, long suffering is going to be one of these things that is going to be very challenging for people that are impatient. Like, you have to be patient. I mean, you have to realize that when you are long suffering, when you're patient, even though things may get to you, like, the Most High is trying to reach maybe one person out the group, and it may seem ignorant to the norm or to the flesh, but in the Ruach, this one that's trying to grab it is begin to latch hold to it, and now you begin to complete the work of the Most High. Because if you realize you're a servant of the Most High, it's not about what you think you've done. It goes back to self-righteousness when you're saying, I think I've done enough. I think I've said enough. Your body may say it thinks you've done enough or said enough, but the spirit is saying something different. And so to know this, you have to be in the spirit realm against all odds, against any of those that say, okay, this seems stupid, this seems weird. Even these videos, this is not for just everybody that's listening, for me and my family. This is for people that will click on YouTube and may not understand nothing. And like, some of these people may be from ground zero and they're trying to come up to a point. So even some of this stuff, like the Most High may say, okay, look, do this, say this and that. But it's just that you never know who may click on a video that may latch hold to them. You know, anybody may just randomly type in a subject, and then the algorithm allow them to land on the video, and they're saying, dang, this is what I've been wanting to hear. Even though everybody has heard it already, they may be listening even now or have heard any other video. So you have to be in the Ruach. You have to realize who is the one that you're working for. Like, you're working for the Most High, not people. This is why hirelings are so dangerous. Like when people allow people to give them money to do things concerning the Most High, that's not how the Most High operate. He don't mind people giving people money and here and there. They're saying, look, if we gave you our spiritual things, is it wrong if we take your carnal things? That's not wrong. But what makes it wrong is when it's taken with expectation. Like when you take something from someone, it shouldn't be no expectation to preach a certain thing or to do a certain thing, well, like that, because that's not what that's for. The Most High function. He's the one, like the Ruach has to lead you. And the way you do that is you don't take, like, you don't get hired, for people to say that you're a minister or anything like that. This is why I come against those situations where you're saying you for the Most High, yet you have a job at some organization that's saying it's a church. Well, you got to do what they're saying do. If you deviate from any of that stuff that's on the wall that they say we believe, at that point, they're going to vote you out of that. Because you don't work for the Most High, you're a hireling. You work for him, you work for them. And this is what you have to realize, that, if you're in, this is why you have to do things in a manner in which you can't be Muslim. Like you can't actually operate for the Most High and people at the same time. Like you're going to either have to serve man or you're going to have to serve Yah. And if you're serving Yah, it's going to always contradict what man wants you to do. Even though man may say, look, I'll give you 100,000. We need you to sign this paperwork and join this type of organization. We're going to push this in politics. Now, look, I don't want none of that. Keep all that. And the Most High turn around and give me what he wants. Even if it's $2, you get into the kingdom. That's what it's about, because the money is not supposed to be what moves you. What's supposed to move you is the soul that's going to be saved. That's more important than the money. The money is going to perish. Like you can't even, it's going to get to a point where money will mean nothing at some point. It's going to be all about goods and services. Like money is just, it's nothing but currency. It's nothing but just paper. It's not even nothing no more. This money that they have in these days, it's not gold and silver. So we have to realize that we can't sell our souls, to people, to say that we're doing the will of Yah, but yet we're doing the will of man behind closed doors. Those that may be bound or that may be in a situation like that may want to come out. It may be the right choice that you put in your resignation and tell them, look, this is my notice. I'm done. I can't work for people no more. Either we work totally for Yah through the Ruach, or else I'm out of here. And this is what you have to do to get it right. Other than that, you're going to be a slave unto man because you yield your members unto this organization. So we're going to go to the next slide. The grace is the mercy of Yah. We can go to Titus chapter 3, verse 3 through 9.
Titus 3, verse 3. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful and hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of Yahuwah, our Savior, toward man appeared, not by works of righteousness, which we have done, but according to his mercy, he saved us by the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Ruach HaKodesh, which he shed on us abundantly through Yahushua HaMashiach, our Savior. That being justified by his grace, we should be made heirs according to the hope of eternal life. This is a faithful saying, and these things I will that you affirm constantly, that they which have believed in Yahuwah might be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable unto men, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the scribes, for they are unprofitable and vain.
Okay, that's why I said in verse 5, not by works of righteousness. So you can't be self-righteous. You don't have any righteous works. And it said it is by his grace as we go further on down. And then you also don't argue with people about the word. This is kind of what we were talking about last week. We talked about protecting the belief, knowing how to protect the belief, fighting for the belief. You have to realize that certain questions are asked so that they can trap you. This is why I said avoid foolish questions. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to avoid these things. These questions are done to try to trap you and to try to twist the word. These questions are asked to see whether or not you have the answer or not, trying to test your knowledge. These questions, most of the time when I get these questions from certain individuals, I always know it's usually just to try to test my knowledge. It's just to test, oh, you ain't know that. Well, just because you don't know something don't mean your heart ain't right toward the Most High. Like you don't have to know what they think you should know to be qualified. Like that's the thing. Like, that's why the Most High say, that, he qualify you and justify you. It's like, it's not man that does it. So trick question doesn't diminish people's authority in the Most High, like asking questions that they may not be able to answer, or trick questions, like certain stuff that you realize that, the Most High ain't trying to, deal with a lot of this stuff, because it's all about whether or not you're in the Mashiach or not at this point. Like certain things, we understand what the standard is, but people are asking these questions about raptures and all this kind of stuff, whatever it may be. None of this stuff even matters when it boils down to it. You just need to be ready when the time comes. If you're ready and you're righteous, it's not going to matter whether or not you thought this was true or false. Like these trick questions a lot of these people asking these questions don't have a heart for Yah. They're just actually trying to figure out, whether or not something going to get them or not, pretty much. I mean, they're not really worried about living for the Most High. They're worried about, the world finna end. Well, if the world end, if you're right with the Most High, then you'll end with the Most High. Like that, you ain't going to end with the world. That's the thing. So it's like people focus on the wrong thing. If you get right with the Most High, it doesn't matter whether the world ends, you die, and that stuff matters at that point. All that matters is that when you do shut your eyes and die, you realize that you're resting and that you're not being tormented. That's what you need to realize. You're like the apostle said, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Most High. And that's what you want to be. You don't want to be in a position where you're worried about, when you're judged, whether or not you was right or not. And that's the reason why these questions doesn't matter if your heart is right toward the Most High. You can figure out this stuff, study, show yourself approved, but you don't have to have it as a sense of some type of fear. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to fearmonger and worry about what's going to happen if you're operating in the Most High. You have to be led by the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, we're gonna go to Romans. Do Romans 5, Romans 5, 6 through 10. Oh, you did Romans 5.
Romans 5, 6 through 10. But when we were yet without strength, at the appointed time, Mashiach died for the wicked. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perchance for a good man some would even dare to die. But Yah commends his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Mashiach died for us. Much more than being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. For if when we were enemies, we were reconciled to Yah by the death of his son, much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life.
So if you're in Mashiach, you ain't got nothing to worry about. When the world ends, anything stop, you're gonna be okay. Nothing to worry about. You don't have to operate in fear. The grace of Yah is there for you already. The grace of Yah came that you may become one with Yah, so you can be reconciled back to Yah by the Mashiach. That's why the grace of Yah came. It didn't come to pacify any type of behavior or anything that you have. It came to offer a way of salvation for you. I'm gonna go backwards to Romans 3, chapter 2, verse 23 through 25.
Romans 3:23. But all have sinned and come short of the glory of Yah, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Mashiach Yahushua, whom Yahuwah has set forth to be appropriation through belief in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are passed through the forbearance of Yah.
Okay, so it's saying for the remission of sins that are past. So it's like you have to look at it, not saying that the grace of Yah won't be for you, but Mashiach, without the Mashiach coming, you don't get to the kingdom. It's like you got to realize the whole reason for the Mashiach, he is grace of Yah. Like, Mashiach is Yah's grace. He came. That once he came, he offered a way in that was not offered in prior. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no way in for everybody else, put it like that was outside of the fold. And then a lot of our people was not going to make it in because of sin, because they weren't able to keep the Torah. It's like they were transgressing against the law on a regular basis. So they kept dying out. The priest kept dying out. So he had to become grace for us. He had to become, a way in, a mediator to actually reconcile us back unto Yah. That's why we have the ministry of reconciliation. We're supposed to go out in the body, in the person of Mashiach, and get people to come back to Yah also. This is why you can't operate in the old man, in the flesh. It's like you can't operate in that man and say that you are an agent of the Most High. It's like it doesn't work that way, because the whole reason for you being an agent of the Most High is that you took on the body of grace, the Mashiach, so that you can function and draw people back to Yah. We were once enemies, to Yah because of the fact that our sin kept us divided. You know what I'm saying? It's like our transgressions kept us divided. We kept transgressing against the law because there was so much of it. He realized that, look, this is overbearing, so we're going to create a way that they may come in. And so this is why he brought, the Mashiach here, so that once he died, that anyone that believed on him, but believing on him is not enough. Believing on him unto obedience. That's why I say, look, if you love me, keep my commandments. So you can be saved through him by the grace of Yah. It's the grace of Yah that allows you to be saved. Like that is not the grace of Yah that covers sin. Like sin must be answered for. Like sin is not free. There's a price that must be paid for sin. The Mashiach paid a price for sin. And yet you saying you don't have to pay a price? He paid a price by death for sin. This is what he paid the price for. So you pay a price by death for sin. Either you pay a price by death for sin, dying in Mashiach, or dying to the flesh with the flesh, one or the other. So you're going to die no matter what if you don't operate, in Mashiach, and you still need to die when you operate in the Mashiach, because now at this point, your body is not your own. You belong to the Most High through the Mashiach. And so now you reconcile back to the Most High, so you can reconcile people back to him also as the agent of the Most High. So, we just have to realize that, sin, has to be answered for, and grace doesn't, replace it. Like when you do something wrong, the grace of Yah has nothing to do with sin that you're doing. Those are two different scenarios. It's like grace is there for you, it's mercy, but it doesn't mean that it excuses what you've done wrong. Like other than that, you don't have to be set apart. You don't have to live right. There's no once saved, always saved. It's like when you get saved, and you have to walk this thing out. You have to die daily. Like, saying getting saved is not really even, you don't even have to look at that. You can't even use that terminology. You have to stay saved. That's what we would say. You have to continue, to stay saved, continue in righteousness. So we'll go to Hebrews 10, chapter 26, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26.
Hebrews 10 and 26. For we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth. There remains no more sacrifice for sin.
And that's what I was saying. So you sin willfully, so there remains no more sacrifice for sin. Go ahead.
But a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despises Moshe's Torah dies without mercy by 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sore punishment suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who has trodden under the foot of the Son of Elohim, and has counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he is sanctified an unholy thing, and has done despite unto his ruach of grace. For we know him that has said, vengeance belongs unto me, I will recompense, says Yahuwah. And again, Yahuwah shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Yah. And
that's what it is. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Yah. So it's like, you can't, like I say, just try to just say, look, I'm going to be right in my own eyes. And no matter what I do, the Most High is going to forgive me. This is what we have to forget about. That has been taught the wrong way. People have been thinking that, you can actually, just do whatever. And then there's no punishment because you say you got saved. Like, that's ignorant. Just because you joined some church and just because you actually said this on your own or whatever it may be that you read in Romans, it's like, it didn't mean that when you confess a prayer unto the Most High, that's like witchcraft. Like there's no scripture that you could quote that saves you from all punishment. It's like, that's equivalent to sorcery. In sorcery, people use objects and stuff for protection. Like the blood of the Mashiach is not for protection and you operate in your own manner in which you're supposed to be. The blood of Mashiach was shed for the sins of the world. It was shed for you as you begin to be in Mashiach. Like, you can't use the blood of Mashiach outside of you being one with the Mashiach. And that's what's going on. We have people trying to like put the Bible in the windshield and just, they're saying stuff like, I plead the blood, but yet they're operating as a sinner. And, you can't, that's not how that works. You can't do that and then say, okay, look, the Most High is going to just excuse everything because the Mashiach died for my sins. Now I went out and did all this evil last night, knowing better before I did it, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to pray about it, and it's just gonna go away. Nope, that's not what's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen that's gonna make you pay for that. Like you have to pay for that. Like when sin comes, you pay for sin. Death was the payment for the Mashiach. And for you, it'll ultimately be death, but you have to pay for it in the flesh. Like there are things that you have to pay for. Like you have to realize when it says obey the rules and regulations of the land, when you run a red light and when you speed, then the punishment is the ticket. That's the ticket. So you paid because you disobeyed the rules and regulations of the land. This was not a regulation that violated the law of Yah. This was something that you were subject to because you accepted the driver's license. And you said, I want to drive on your public road. So now you have to abide by the public rules. And you violated. So your punishment is the ticket. That's how that works. You didn't get away with that. Now, there may be times they may excuse and say, I'll give you a warning. Same thing with the Most High. He may give you a warning. He don't give you a warning every time. There's no one that can say that they just got warnings all the time and they speed on a regular basis. At some point, a speeder is going to get a speeding ticket. And this is what we have to realize to make this thing normal to people. And people have to get out of this fantasy world, this fairy tale mindset about the Most High, like he's just some genie waiting on you to make a wish and just everything disappears. Like it doesn't work that way. You have to answer for what you've done wrong. So we're going to end in a prayer. Father, y'all, thank you right now for the word that went forth. I thank you right now for y'all that we realize that, grace, the grace of you doesn't excuse our sin. It doesn't excuse our bad behavior, that we can't be self-righteous. We have to realize that you were long-suffering towards us, so we must be long-suffering toward others, Father. I thank you right now that the ministry of you, Father, reconciliation be in our heart, Father, that we may realize that we must reconcile people back to you at the cost of whoever we may lose or whoever we may add. We can't allow any outside distraction, Father, to stop us from getting that next soul, Father, based on anything, Father. We realize that it is you, Father, that gives us the ability to do everything that we need to do, Father. Father, I magnify your name. Just thank you right now, Father, that souls may be saved, Father, that souls may be added unto your church, Father, not to some name, not to some ministry or some channel or something like that, Father. It's all about being added unto the body of the Mashiach, Father. And I thank you right now, Father, that we realize this, Father, that we get our mindset out of this thing, Father, that we've been learning and that we've been taught through these institutions, Father, that's saying that we can just abuse the grace of you, Father, that's saying that we can just do what we want to do, Father. We come against that self-righteous spirit, Father. We come against the spirit of witchcraft, everything that tries to cause us to be contrary, Father, and not have a circumcised heart, Father. We understand, Father, that the circumcision must be of the heart, Father. That we must have a mind, Father, to serve you, Father. We must have a mind, Father, to do the things that we must have a mind to develop a personal relationship with you, Father. Without this, we can do nothing, Father. It's like, how do we not know the one that we're saying that we're serving? Father, I just thank you right now, Father. We realize, Father, this thing is not hard and difficult. It just takes a willing vessel. We must be willing, Father. We think that we must be willing and obedient, that we may also eat the good of the land, Father. We thank you right now, Father, that the results will come forth, Father, as we begin to come unto you, Father, with a broken spirit, Father, and a contrite heart. You won't refuse, Father. Father, I magnify your name because you're worthy. Once again, I take this time out, not just to pray, but just to let you know that I lift up the name of you, Father. I thank you right now because you're worthy. I acknowledge, Father, that it is through you that I breathe, that I live, that I have my being, that everything about me functions and operates properly. It is through you that these things exist. You are the one that woke me up and not me myself, Father. I humble myself, Father, to let you know that no matter what goes on, that with the fruit of my lip, Father, I magnify your name, Father. You inhabit the praise of your people, Father. I take this time out, Father, to lift up the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, Father. Thanking him for being obedient all the way unto death, to the death of the state. Father, I magnify your name right now, seeing that you saw fit to just send us a savior, Father, that you saw fit, Father, that we may begin to come into the kingdom and be heirs, Father. Father, we magnify your name because you're worthy, Father. Thank you right now. In the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray, we thank you, Father. We say, Toda Yah. In the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray. Hallelujah.